People who grew up in third world countries. What was the biggest shock for you when moving into a developed country? When I was in the Marines, I had a friend that was from extreme rural Africa. So we took him to 3D shows and such. He had been in the US for around 6 months, but even things like TV was an amazing luxury to him. Someone in the group picked up one at a pawn shop off post and gave it to him, and he was just amazed that someone would just give him a TV. Something nifty. He had it set up so direct deposits would go to an account his village had access to. His salary as an E2 in the Navy made his family semi-royalty in the village. My roommate's co-worker is from Guatemala. He says one of the best things about the US is that when you call for an ambulance, one actually shows up even if you aren't rich or important. Safety when walking on the streets during night. When in Brazil, I used to wait for my wife on the bus stop from college, as she usually left college around 2200 hours. It was dangerous. We used to live on a central zone, and her college was also central. In Ireland, if she leaves a party at 3 o'clock, I don't get concerned at all. So great to live without being afraid. It took us about 1 year to relax. How expensive many things are, while certain things are very cheap, but there's always enough that things would get fixed. I had a vending machine in my dorm building. It broke down and said, well poop, guess no more vending machine. Absolutely flabbergasted when I saw the machine repaired and working at it. Changed dorm room to dorm building. Not getting suspicious when a stranger talks to you on the street. I can't get over it. I get anxious every time. But people in Canada don't seem to mind at all where I come from. When a stranger approaches you, you nope the frick out. The quality of the public infrastructure, and how respectful city planning is with pedestrians. Sydney is full of beautiful little gifts in the shape of shortcuts, stairs, parks, pathways, everywhere. It truly is a joy to just walk through the city. Also, dogs are more polite than people where I come from. Grocery stores like Walmart, Publix, and Kroger, huge and vast, have air conditioning. Massive variety and tons of stuff I have never heard of. Huge culture shock to me and my father in 2001, since we had no major grocery stores in Bosnia at the time. Giant grocery stores are full of food and always fully stocked. Coming from Ukraine to USA in the 90s, my entire family's jaws dropped for hours. I visited my cousins in the US once. I was surprised that your houses don't have walls around them. There were only those fences at the side and back that pretty much anyone can jump over. Where I live, the only houses who don't have walls surrounding them are those in compounds or subdivisions that have roaming security guards. Paid security guards, not volunteers like the neighborhood watch kind of thing. Edit. To the people asking, I'm from the Philippines, but it's nice to see that other countries carry this tradition. Edit. Not really a wealthy family, but not really a from dangerous neighborhood. It pretty standard here to have at least a 2-meter tall concrete walls if you have middle income, but those poor ones just settle with barbed wire. The postal system. The logistics of delivering millions of letters to millions of homes on a daily basis is astonishing. Especially at that price. The idea that I can send a letter across the country and have it reliably delivered the next or possibly even same day is truly impressive. Edit. Don't bother. 30 people have already made that email joke. Water and gas system. We have to buy that separately on gallon and tank. Edit. Drinking water. The discipline in driving. In my country, even when the signal light is color red, they just brush it off and continue accelerating. F-king morons. Toilets. Flushing toilets that you could repeatedly flush to. People's personal space is surprisingly vast. How old the houses are. I was expecting modern construction like in my country. but instead saw old buildings which, ironically, valued more than even the more modern ones. You've got so much fresh water. You poop in it. I grew up in South Africa and have been living in England for 20 years. 1. Cars stop when you walk up to a pedestrian crossing. 2. Double glazed windows are really good at keeping the warm in and the noise out. 3. I can walk around at night without thinking I'm going to get shot or robbed. 4. There are only a few people on building sites and the buildings get built in a quick and organized manner. 5. When things break, someone will come and fix it. I could go on all day. Edit. Wow. This thread has gone wild. Wish I could reply to all comments, but there are a lot. These are just the humble observations of a SAR guy living in northeast England. How little theft there is. I was always told to always mind my bag and make it clear I'm holding it tight. Now I can freely leave it beside me. Sometimes not even look. I've had friends leave a purse on a table in a restaurant and I made jokes about how easy it would be to steal it. Just a lot more relaxing in public due to less theft. Another one is how less physical fighting in schools there is. From a young age I was always told if someone hits you, hit them back harder, but when we moved to UK my dad told me before my first day of school, if someone hits you, tell the teacher. The lights. So many lights, from street lamps, traffic lights, huge buildings lit up all night. Oh, and the highways blew my mind. They were so wide and full of so many cars. I was 6 and I'll never forget that first drive from the airport to my new home in December. It was also my first time seeing snow. Edit. I joined Reddit a few days ago and today I got some awards and coins I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with. Thank you. Also, I moved from a small southern Croatian village, the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia at the time, 1989, to Toronto. Poor people are fat. How things actually work. You can rely on your electricity not going out at least twice a day. If you buy something and it breaks, there's warranty with little to no hassle. Internet actually works more than it doesn't. Public transportation actually arrives, and shockingly, it does on time. If you hire a service, it'll actually be done and with an expectation of quality. The list goes on. Of course it's not perfect and there's poopy people everywhere. But that's the exception, not the rule. And it's a massive difference. Being a girl, you can live alone. How much cheaper things are, the general feeling and expectation of safety, how most people follow laws and rules just as part of the culture. Everyone isn't always trying to get away with stuff. There's always a few who break rules and etc, but just the fact that lawfulness and orderliness are a cultural expectation is huge. How clean everything is, even bad areas are a lot of times nicer or cleaner than what I grew up with. There's less graffiti. There isn't trash everywhere all the time. And the rivers and mostly sewage. And people even clean up after their dogs. There's not just poop all over the sidewalks and everywhere, being able to flush toilet paper. I visited Germany once with my family. We were about to cross the road when a Porsche came racing through. Living in India, we experience daily traffic mishaps and there is negligible concern regarding pedestrian safety and courtesy. So we were actually shocked when the driver literally halted to a stop and insisted on us crossing the road. There was no traffic light, no zebra crossings, nothing, and we actually were used to letting cars pass by before walking. So this was the biggest shock to us. Drinking water directly from water taps. The one thing which baffled me is how there is an absence of petty crimes and how the shops in the city center were not worried about displaying their wares outside their shops. There was no risk of someone stealing those tiny stuffs. Also at night, the shops were just closed with their glass doors. No extra iron shutters with multiple locks and stuffs. Lack of a local warlord. How fast food wasn't $50 per person, but rather $5.10. Also, How much civilization advances when the AC is on all day and everywhere. It's a blessing. A Tongan African man who was staying with me came rushing in the first week he was staying me and woke me up. He was extremely excited that there was a garbage truck with a motorized arm and was picking up the wheelie bins as it went down the street. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? He kept exclaiming over and over again. Amazing. Amazing. It made me laugh very hard. But he was a lovely guy. This is a bit of a cop-out that I answer because I usually live in wealthy countries, but I lived in a small town in Bolivia for 18 months and the two unexpected things that got to me when we left was cars everywhere, going to the toilet without it being an ordeal, and seeing your reflection. Such a weird thing. We lived in grass roof huts, so the only time you'd see your reflection would be in our tiny mirror. There's no glass or bathroom mirrors. I'm not vain, but it was very strange to suddenly see what I look like all the time. I had lost about 25 kgs, 55 pounds, while I was there, so that was even stranger. My wife's first time in the US, she burst out laughing at how a four-way stop worked, and just couldn't believe people actually followed the rules. That people don't care at all with the clothes or my overall appearance, weight, hair, etc. In Brazil I always get comments, good or bad, about how I look. Mainly from friends or family, but it's common to always talk about it. When I moved to Australia I made friends and never got a comment about any of these things. It was a big relief to find out that I can be myself and not worry about the tons of comments about something that doesn't matter at all. I moved from South Africa to the UK, and the fact that you can actually live off minimum wage is just incredible. Pay rent and bills, buy food and slowly furnish your house. It's phenomenal. Also, the fact that most of the UK born citizens think this is a terrible place to live is just beyond me. I always get asked why'd I leave sunny South Africa to come to this poop hole. They just don't understand how good they've got it. There wasn't too much of a disparity between what I knew and what was directly spoken to me compared to what was portrayed in media regarding the United States. However, the biggest and most glaringly obvious difference was how easy and common a thing it would be to have someone of another ethnic or racial background within arm's reach. My younger self, being more accustomed and familiar with brown skin, walking around Miami International and seeing so many beautiful and new tones of skin was shook. Not me. But I heard about a couple here in Spain who offered their home as a temporary retreat for minors who were about to be sent back to Africa. Can't really remember the details. It is, in fact, a program called Vacations en Paz for Sahrawi kids. Children spend a summer with Spanish families. Thanks to you Hopeless Wonder 147. You Priceless Planet and Unieurope Psycho for filling me on the details I forgot about. One of the youngest kids took back with him a faucet, believing it would pour water whenever needed. Edit. Faucet equals water tap. Sorry. English is not my native language. Edit 2. Faucet equals faucet. I really thought I screwed up. Thanks for the input, pals. I was born in Canada, but I moved to Africa when I was 3 and then moved back when I was 8. The first time I heard an intercom at school with announcements and the school bell blew my mind. I was 9 when we moved here from the Philippines, where it's always hot and muggy. The day after we landed, my parents took us to Disneyland. Once inside the park I noticed how much cooler it was and claimed how rich the US was that they can use air conditioning outdoors. Everyone got a good laugh out of that one. Cars. Devices are much cheaper in US than in CIS countries. How almost everything is easy. Like drive-through banking, fast food drive-through, returning an Amazon product, buying stuff online, talking to a customer rep to fix problems, driving with traffic that I can't tolerate, following road rules, microwave, central heating and cooling to your house, internet speeds, school buses for K-12 and etc. There is much more. But the thing that shocks me to this day is the amount of food that gets thrown away. I used to say that I'm never going to throw away food because it's wasteful. But over time I realized why people do it. Sure, you can save the leftovers, but who in the family is going to eat it? Yeah? No one. So we just throw food away. What the word hope really means. Moved from a Southeast Asian country. As a working but near poverty class family. I always had thought that was it, living in a slum-like neighborhood. Get a poopty job while doing frickle every day. Knock up some poor girl before we got to adulthood. Then just give up. Hoping that I don't contract any random plague or contagious illness due to an unsanitary environment. And kinda waste away the rest of my life because we were poor and lived in a developing country. 13-year-old me looked at the world with this grimy shade of filter. It felt like this purest sense of pooptiness. When we moved to the US not longer after, it was the first time that I realized life didn't have to be that way. Even though we were still poor back then and we barely could integrate to the society, we finally landed somewhere better. It really did make me realize what it means to look forward to a better tomorrow. How clean it was in most areas. The structure and the uniformity of it all. Everyone's always inside their houses. Back in my country, everyone would always go outside. You could see kids playing. Old people talking to each other. There's always people outside. Because of that I made a lot of friends. I wake up every morning to see my friends just sitting there outside of their houses. And we would greet and then walk around our neighborhood to meet our new friends. And then we'd talk or play basketball. It was fun. It was much more fun. Then I moved to Japan. I thought just like in my country, kids would always be outside. And I thought I could make friends easily with the neighborhood kids. Turns out, everyone is always inside. The whole neighborhood felt like a ghost town. There were no kids hanging out outside. The place has so many houses. But it felt very empty. Then it hit me. I missed my home. I became homesick. I had no friends. Every day I'm always inside the house. And it was the most boring part of my life. Then it became depression. And just got worse and worse. It has been 6 years. I have a job now. I'm always at home. Bought myself guitars, PS4 and a computer to make myself occupied. But I prefer going outside. Meeting and talking with friends. Rather than this kind of life. I still miss my previous home. I still miss my previous life.